Welcome to Zappable, a phone soap podcast. We are here to create a path for better understanding of health and wellness. With 10 years of experience with UVC light disinfection, we're eager to take you on a journey that opens your mind to a new wavelength of learning. So yeah, we're glad to have another episode of Zappable. This podcast has been pretty fun. Learning about health and wellness and just learning together.
Yes. Dallin, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling great.
Yeah.
What we're going to talk about today on the podcast is something that I'm really passionate about. Something that I do a lot of.
Yeah, that's all you do.
It's exciting. And we get lots of questions about this as well. So it's exciting to see how people engage with our content. And this goes right in hand with what Phone Soap does, and it's just been fun.
So how did your journey with TikTok start?
So, like any journey in any business, it starts with the marketing team. And so marketing was like, hey, we need these videos. We're thinking about it being about germs and petri dishes and incubating them. Can you do time lapses of germs growing on a petri dish?
3 days.
Yeah. And so we did tons of experiments, and let's back up just a little bit. So to give people context, what we're going to be talking about today on this episode of Zappable is something that's near and dear to our hearts.
Boom.
The How Germy Is It series that is popular on TikTok, on Instagram, and pretty much anywhere you have social media.
And anyone wondering, it's not Germany.
Yeah, it's not Germany.
It's not
Very
Germany.
common misconception. Maybe my pronunciation is a little off, so people can hear Germany and not Germy. But yeah, so we're going to be talking about that and how we got from 1,000 followers on TikTok to now 400,000 with a couple thousand views to millions of views. And it was exciting to do this. So going back to the initial test that we were trying to do is we made this acrylic box so that we could put a camera above it, but then keep the Petries underneath it in a comfortable environment so that they don't dry out or anything. And we got humidifiers in there. We got little heating pads in there.
So you tried to make your own incubator?
Yeah, we tried to make our own incubator because we had incubators, but it wasn't as easy to get a camera inside of them because cameras like overheat and the incubators need to be about 95 degrees in there to grow the bacteria properly. And so having a camera in that heat all the time would overheat it. It would shut off. And so we had to adapt and make our own incubator. But then we quickly found out that Utah's climate doesn't do well with things outside, and the Petries, even though we had humidifiers and stuff, they dried up super quick. So I mean, we learned that, and we were just like, you know what, let's just move on. And of course it's exciting to see the Petri dishes grow, but ultimately we just want to see the before and after.
Give me the result.
So we just went right to the chase and said, hey, we'll just show before and after, and I think that should be good enough. Which brought us to the How Germy Is It series, and it made things a lot easier on my part too. Because figuring out the logistics with the time lapse and the Petries was kind of a challenge. So,
I mean, you'd have to get the perfect seal, and then, like you said, the climate problems. So that's an interesting challenge. Probably, not a difficult one to pull off.
Yeah, and I'm sure we could figure it out. There might be some solutions we weren't thinking about, but ultimately it was just easier to do this thing that we did, and I feel like we made the right choice, because we would have wasted a lot more time trying to figure the logistics out with that.
Dude,
so
I didn't know that. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and it was fun. Another thing about growing bacteria is it has to be in a dark area to grow the best. And so
LED lights or fluorescent lights.
So LED lights are the best, but they still affect the growth. And so that was another aspect of why we didn't see good results with the homemade incubator.
Interesting.
But it's fine. We found a way, and like I said,
we're just here.
Way easier.
It's like we're here today, just like that.
Yeah, exactly. And so when we first started doing these videos, they were just experimental. Like, we didn't really have a presence online on TikTok. We had quite a few followers on Instagram, but we
only like 35,000.
Yeah, it was like 25,000, I think, about, and which is still good. But we didn't have a lot of engagement in our content. We just post a lot of UV specific things. Hey, like, this is your phone. It's gross. Here's the solution, which is our bread and butter. But it doesn't call for engagement.
Yeah, which that's some of the best communities that I've observed. Like, the engagement piece is really engaging.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you get questions that get asked, you get just people curious, and you actually just feel like there's a relationship with the brand, that the brand actually cares, that they listen, that, you know, there's legitimacy in what they're doing.
Yeah. And that's really what we wanted to do. Is it's really hard to convince people that there's germs on their phone. And the only way to show them is by doing these tests, swabbing their phone, putting them on a petri dish, and seeing it grow.
Quite the knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah. And but then on top of that, everything that we do touch gets on our phone. So that's why it's important for us to do these tests on other things, is because we're still touching other things, but our phones don't get cleaned as often as they should, because we just don't think about it. And when you don't see actual germs, it's hard to know what to be cleaning and what not to.
Yeah, and the benefit of just awareness in all situations allows us to make better informed decisions. And, you know, it's not like, I mean, since the beginning of time, we're alive, but, you know, in the dark ages or whatever, the bubonic plague, doctors were going from formaldehyde corpses to delivering babies.
Yeah.
And, you know, there was a problem. Like, they noticed that, you know, this death plague is killing all these mothers and these children, these babies. And it wasn't until somebody proposed an idea that, you know, they're contaminating these pregnancies. And he was actually ignored. We'll have to, you know, do another episode on the story behind it, but basically the death plague went away as soon as the doctors started washing their hands between formaldehyde dead corpses and delivering babies.
Yeah.
So we've come a long ways, and germ awareness is what enabled that shift in behavior.
Yeah.
In the medical field.
Yeah.
So, like, making small adjustments that are informed on conscious, aware decisions rather than fear. Yeah. Or ignorance, for that matter. Like, we can make better informed decisions. That's my main point.
Yeah. And I saw this. I spend a lot of time on TikTok, if you didn't guess. But I saw this TikTok where this group of girls that they have a podcast, because everyone has a podcast, and they were talking about washing your hands and how they don't wash their hands because they're like, oh, hundreds of years ago, people didn't wash their hands. Why did we start washing our hands? And it was funny listening to them like justify why they don't wash their hands. And I was just like, that's gross, girls. But immediately there was someone who responded to that who's like a doctor, and they explained a little bit, kind of like what you were saying, is that science has advanced, and it's because we took these steps is why people live healthier lifestyles, and washing your hands was one of those things that helped progress that. And they were just like, please wash your hands. There's germs everywhere. You don't need to be spreading them where they don't need to be. Just wash your hands. And so that's kind of where we're at with the How Germy Is It series. And we just want people to know, like, hey, there's germs on stuff. Just to let you know, we don't want to scare people. We get a lot of comments that we're creating germaphobes, but we want to keep people germ conscious, germ aware. And so it's just important to know, because our bodies can only take on so much. Everyone always brings up the immunity, their immune system is like the main point. There's like, I have a strong immune system. I don't need to worry about germs. And our immune systems are strong, and they're meant to fight off germs and bacteria, but they can only do so much. And that's why we need to take the steps to help our bodies, to help relieve the burden on our immune system.
And I will say, if it's okay if you don't believe in aliens, but please believe in germs.
Yeah. Yeah. Just because you can't see them doesn't mean they're not there.
Yes.
But yeah. And yeah, there's a lot of alien stuff going on. But to go back to the beginning of the How Germy videos, we posted multiple ones. We did like game controllers, remote controls, our phones, of course, gas pumps, and the most popular one, but not at the time, was the hand dryers. And I posted it once, and it got like 20,000 views, and I was like, oh, sweet, this is exciting. Like, it's starting to progress. Then I kept posting more videos. I just did like random things like door handles, toilet seat covers, and things like that. And things weren't really taking off. And I was getting a little discouraged. I'm like, okay, well, maybe it's time to stop the How Germy Is It series and move on to something else that might help our brand a little better.
Like, you're ready to give up.
Yeah. I was like, okay, I don't think this is doing what marketing wants it to do. But I was going to leave that up to them. And then I decided to do one more post. And this one I really was not going to post, because I was discouraged because I had already posted a How Germy video about air dryers before. And so I was like, I don't want to post the same thing. Like, people have already seen this. Why do I need to fill up their feed with the same content that I made already? It was a new test, but it was the same concept. But I was like, you know what? Whatever. I'm just going to post it. And the rest was history. And so the hand air dryer part 2 is really what changed the How Germy Is It series for us.
Yeah, there were a lot of moving pieces as well that kind of just the stars aligned in a way that we didn't realize how impactful it was. For example, we kind of after the fact realized that it was the same day as Prime Day. So for e-commerce, online shopping, there were a lot of people looking online. So you know, a lot of people on TikTok, and
I used the hashtag
use the
Prime
hashtag
Deals.
Prime Deals. And so, you know, everybody looking for Prime Deals get this bizarre, you know, hand dryer video that, might I say, you know, had a little humorous play to it. If you go back and look at it, basically you went to multiple locations, and one of the controls in science, you want to have a control to compare your tests against, which that's more or less you want it to show nothing, if anything, or not to show nothing, but to test it.
Yeah.
And that test was you just like waved a petri dish in the air in the same location where you put it under the hand dryer.
Yeah.
Right. And so you did 3 different locations, and then you did one just shaking.
Yeah.
And all of the hand dryer ones, it showed that, okay, the filters in the hand dryers were not replaced, so they're just blowing germs onto your hands.
Yeah.
And the petri dish showed that growth of those germs, but the one that you waved with your hands showed nothing.
Yeah.
And so then at the end of the video, you then said, well, it turns out, you know, not using the hand dryers is better for your hand hygiene than you know, wiping on your clothes or shaking it out.
Yeah.
So I remember I made a comment on that. I had not engaged with any of your How Germy Is It videos before this hand dryer video. And I found that last snippet humorous. I just pointed out the irony, and I just repeated what you said.
Yeah.
And early on, that was one of the comments that people were just like, because it pointed out the irony in the video that I was just genuinely, I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
And, you know, people recognize that too. And, you know, the idea of, you know, you connect what's in the video, what's in the comment sections, and, you know, it connected with a lot of people.
Yeah. And this experiment wasn't just done blindly. Like, there was a reason before we did this test. One, we had already done the test before and saw that it had some bad results.
Performed 20. Oh, like it worked basically.
Yeah.
That it showed
Yeah,
that
it showed that there were germs like in these hand dryers. So I wanted to test different places just for my own personal knowledge. And we tested a bunch of different places that ended up actually more germy than our first test was. And also we also took inspiration from other scientists, because this has been a known thing that hand air dryers aren't as sanitary as people think, because they require changing the filters often, and the filters don't get changed
like monthly, right?
Yeah, I think they said they recommend monthly for high trafficked areas, probably more often than that.
Sure.
And it's kind of hard to keep tabs on that kind of thing. And so if you're not changing those filters out monthly at the least, then you're just filtering the same air that's in the bathroom over and over again. And we know what goes on in the bathroom. And so all that air that's in the bathroom for a month, let's just say, let's give them the benefit of the doubt, even a month of it filtering through there can yield some pretty gnarly results. But under our assumption, they've probably been there a little bit longer than the month, because a lot of people don't have the time to switch those out. They don't have anything reminding them to change them out. And so people like the Mythbusters, they did a similar test to this. They did the hand dryers, and then they did drying their hands on paper towel. And paper towel was definitely the more hygienic option. But some people don't like that because it's wasting paper. But I just say, hey, like, just be conservative with it. Like, you don't need to tear like an entire thing of paper down.
2 or 3 of them.
Yeah. Because you really don't need that much. You just need enough to get your hands like a little dry.
And then the air will do the rest. Yeah.
Exactly. And so that really was the first video that set us apart. And I posted it, turned off my phone, and
Forgot about it.
I forgot about it. I was like, I'll just ignore it for a few hours, because I heard if you ignore your phone, sometimes that makes things go viral. I don't think that's true. But it was just something, it was a way for me to justify getting away from my phone. Cause like it was getting a little, I don't want to say depressing, but it was making me not as excited to see the videos not succeed.
It's up to that point, nothing had more than 25,000 views.
Yeah. And that was just the one video. Most of them were like a couple hundred, maybe 1,000.
Yeah.
And
It's
so,
like nothing. Like,
which isn't, it's cool. Cause like if you
Yeah.
think about it,
well, it's the whole
having
picture.
100
It's the whole picture of
like,
the consistency, the effort that goes on. Like, it's not that it's not impressive, but it's just the curiosity to explore it a little longer. Like, I think that's what I find so fascinating with the TikTok account.
yeah.
Is like there's all sorts of different constraints in a business of like budget. And so it's like, is this worth our time?
Yeah.
And so I know that was a big concern for you was, you know, am I spending time wisely for
Yeah.
Phone Soap? And, you know, you experienced that, you felt that. And, you know, I don't know, like you weren't trying to force it. You actually just got to the breaking point and you were ready to give up.
Cause like, yeah, my job is to bring value to the company. And up until that point, I didn't really think that was bringing that much value.
Well, I think it's just the general direction that I feel like e-commerce is going is, I guess Gary Vaynerchuk talks about it a lot, but providing value, not for Phone Soap, but for those that are going to be entertained or are going to be brought to awareness in our case.
Yeah.
So like that is valuable. Like, and it's not just about Phone Soap.
Yeah.
Like, this is the curiosity to stick around a little longer, just, you know, without expectation of reward.
Yeah. And yeah,
It's courageous.
so we
Dallin, you were courageous.
we stuck around and we found out.
Yeah.
What's the term? It's probably a little more vulgar for our audience, but I will say stuck around and found out. And yeah, so that was exciting to see it go from 1,000 followers to, I think it was like 200,000 like that night.
Wow.
And
I know your other videos got all these views from me.
yeah.
I was showing all my nieces and nephews on vacation. I was like, oh, I work for this company. My friend Dallin, he put out this video. Look, it's at 7 million views.
Yeah. And it was crazy because I remember Dan, he like messaged me. He was like, I think he messaged our then marketing guy. He was like, are you putting money into this video like to promote it? And he was like, no, I had no idea it was even there. And it just kept going. And that was exciting. I'm like, wow, like we're having this growth and we didn't like promote it at all. And yeah, seeing it go from 1 million the first day to 3 million like the next day, and ultimately I think it's at like 26 million on TikTok, and then a couple million on Instagram, and then there are numerous amounts of people who have reposted that same video that have gotten
Similar viral results.
millions of views. And so unfortunately some of those people don't accredit that it was our video. So that's kind of a bummer, but sometimes like the little TikTok thing will bounce back and forth so people can see that it was us, but
your voice is all over it. So.
But yeah, so over 60 million people have heard my voice
on one video.
And we've had multiple viral videos as well. But I just wanted to focus this podcast on how we started the How Jeremy Is It series. And we do plan on continuing it. And every Wednesday is what our goal is, to post new content for How Germy Is It, based on comments that people have left. And the community is very generous. They leave so many comments, and it gives us a lot to work with, because we can't test everything, of course, but we use that to gauge what is the most beneficial to our followers. And we love making this stuff. Of course, I want to keep making these because they're fun for me. But like I was saying before, if it's not bringing value to the company, it's kind of hard to justify me making these still. So, I mean, ultimately, if you guys are interested in this content, try supporting Phone Soap, buying our products. They really work. And we've done multiple tests on phones and how germy they are. And it's called the third hand you never wash. And that's what we like to refer it as, or a Petri dish in your pocket. And we shouldn't be carrying Petri dishes around. From experience, they stink.
Yeah.
They don't smell good.
They grow colonies. They multiply.
They get pretty gnarly. And So
just disclaimer, like the Petri dish is made to grow, exaggerate it. It's like it accelerates the growth.
Yeah.
But what's on your phone, like,
Yeah, and obviously, people like to say that too. They're like, I'm not going to not wash my hands for 3 days straight. And that's not what Petri dishes show. Petri dishes are there to show you what germs are on your hands to begin with. Because when you touch your face or whatever, those germs then get into your body, and then they can multiply.
And you don't want styes on your eye.
Yeah. And so that is where you see the growth, and you don't want that kind of growth. So please consider buying a phone soap at phonesoap.com. And thank you for being on today. I know it was kind of short notice, but this is something that I've been wanting to talk about for a while, and it's exciting. And I have a feeling we're gonna talk a little bit more about this in the future, because there's a lot more story left. But we want to keep this as short and sweet and zappable as possible. And so thank you guys for watching. If you have any more comments, things you want us to talk about, things you want us to swab for How Germy Is It, please leave those down below, and check us out on socials, TikTok, Instagram, X, and Threads as well. We're on all of them. Some of them we're a little more active on than others, but I do read all the comments, and I see what you guys are saying, and we'll answer those questions here on the podcast as well as on social media. So until then, we are excited to keep this podcast going.
Live a healthy life.
And live a healthy lifestyle, to be germ conscious, and just to live a better life. So thanks for watching.